Hey guys, Scott with the Bass Tank here. Garmin just released a new update. Today we're on the water. We're going to talk about the GPS map update because there was some really big changes with this. The operating system has changed as far as the user interface. We're going to go over that layout change, show you where these things have moved to. I'm pretty excited about it after I started playing with it. We just need to familiarize ourselves with it, and that's what we're going to try to help you guys do today. Trying to make this a little bit simpler on this transition because guess what? There's no going back. And then we're going to get into Livescope in here in a bit. So let's go over to the screen. Let's talk about the new layout and go from there. All right, guys, now over here looking at our screens, you'll notice that we've got a lot of changes here. Used to we had the words down here, home, nav info, the SOS, and those type things. What they've done is they've tried to streamline this process. So let's just go through real quick the first step. All right, guys, one big change is used to when I would hit the home button, you would see settings right here. If you guys recall, it would be down here in the settings area on this categories. That's no longer the case. So what we do now to get to the settings is we've got this options button over here. This is replacing the word menu. So we go to options, and we can still go to our fishing chart menu because that's a page I've got selected. But if you'll look over here, this is where my settings are. These settings are not just for that fishing chart menu. These are system settings. This is everything. So this is where I come in here, change anything I need to from my station information, my configuration, the whole 9 yards, my communications. This is where the NEMA, the preferred sources. If you've watched some of our other videos, I've talked about selecting the source for GPS depth and the like. We'll get to that because they've done a great job on this one as well. But again, to reiterate, I'm going to hit home. I'm going to go to the page I want to go. I'm on my fishing chart. I want to get to settings of my system. And this is true on any page. I go to options, and then I go to settings right here. This is a big adjustment for me because I jump into the settings quite a bit with troubleshooting and the like with customers. So this is going to be a big one to get used to, but this is where it's at. So let's move on. All right, guys, we're continuing on here talking about the different things that have changed with this update. So one thing of note is if we go to our home, used to, remember we talked about the settings, that's changed. The other thing that's changed is you used to see one that would say AV gauges, and this is where you would find your active captain icon and things like that. Now that is under the vessel. So this is where my active captain, my engine data, if you have that connected, that is where that is at now. So vessel is where that has changed to. Same thing, I can rearrange, I can add to pinned, or I can press and hold it there. So that's just another feature that has moved or been renamed, and I know that guys are going to be wondering where that's at. That's all that is, nothing too crazy from that standpoint. All right, guys, we've gone over the initial layout changes. Just to recap what we've talked about. Option is what the old menu used to be. My vessel is what that AV gauges used to be. That's where my active captain icon, my engine data is at. The big one that I see is going to be that settings. Go to the page you're at, select options, and that's where my system settings are going to be. Stay with us. We're going to go a little bit deeper dive into a few of the features they've added. I'm pretty excited about some of them, so stay tuned with us. We're going to get into it right now. All right, guys, we've been going over this new update, and I'm going to show you a couple of the new features deeper in than just the layout. So we'll go over to the screen here, we'll take a look at that and go from there. All right, guys, we're going to talk about a new feature that I'm pretty excited about. Right now you can see both screens I'm running are on traditional Sonar, and right down here you can see that my source is actually coming from my console right. I've got a GT36 with a GT8 combination. The GT8 is what's providing my 2D sonar here. That's the glue-in hole transducer from Garmin. So what I can do is I can select this, Options, Sonar Setup, and right here you see Console Right. I can change this right now. So I can go to built-in because I'm running a GT54 right there. I can change it without having to jump in. Now let me show you the same setup, doing that the normal way we used to do it. So I would go to Home, I would go to Options, I would come to Settings, I would go to Communications, Preferred Sources, and then you see my traditional sonar. I'd have to select it, change source, and then I can do it there. So let me go back to this and show you how quickly this is. Options, Sonar Setup, change the source. Literally from the screen, from the page I'm on, I can change the source. Now, not everyone's gonna run 2 transducers, I do, but for those of you guys who do run two transducers, this is a real quick way to change the source. This works for the clear view and side view as well. So I'm really excited about this one because this is one I use quite a bit. All right, guys, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into some of the new menu options that Garmin has added, the new features. So this one right here is the 2D sonar, our traditional sonar. I'm gonna come in here to Options. You're gonna see my gain. So just like you guys that are familiar with Livescope, I can run this up and down. The higher I run it, the more trash I'm gonna see. Now that may result in a better image, it may not. So for time being, I'm kind of playing around with this because I want to see how it's gonna handle. I'm just going to auto medium right now. That seems to have been a really good picture thus far. My frequency, this has been there for a while. You can come in here and you can change the frequency. Traditional chirp, I can change my beam width. The thing to remember is 19 degrees is chirp. So if I change this, the beam width right here changes the frequency. So where this comes into effect is, think of the cone. So if I've got 24 degrees versus 16 degrees, I may get a better definition with that 16 degrees, but I'm not gonna see quite as much. If I widen that a little bit, I'm gonna see more. It's going to be a little bit broader, but it may not be as much definition. Chirp is still pretty standard. I do play around with this on different lakes depending if I'm deeper or shallower. I will definitely adjust this up and down. Zoom has always been here, range has always been here, transmit. So if we jump in here to Sonar Setup, we've got our scroll speed. I typically try to match the speed of the boat on this one. We talked about the source, so I can change the source. My noise reject, so this one is one of the big updates. So I've got my interference turned off, the color limit. Now we're gonna talk about color limit here in a minute with the Livescope, but we're still on the traditional sonar. Now what this does is it's gonna change this palette, if you will. It's going to get rid of some of that background noise, so my fish should show up a little bit better. And we'll go scan around here in a second. I'll get on top of some fish to show you that. The smoothing, if I turn this to high, we're in 2 foot of water, you're really not gonna see a change. What it's doing is it keeps it from being as jagged and so blocky. It kind of makes it more of a realistic picture as well from that standpoint. So then we can come into appearance. So my color scheme, so this color gain, again, just like on Livescope, I can go way hot with it. It goes real crazy. I can actually go negative on my color scheme here. This is gonna be really key in identifying some bottom composition because these hard spots are really gonna show up really well. That subtle spot, like if I'm running at a default, for example, 0, this is just a hard bottom where I'm at. But if I change this to this -10, I mean, this is really extreme. It's gonna have to be like that one hard spot to really show up and get that return. That may be that juice, if you will, that special spot within the spot. So this one I'm excited to play with quite a bit. We've got the A-scope. You guys remember the old flashers? That's essentially what this is. That's been there the depth line edge, those have been there. The fish symbols, you can turn that on to show you, what they're calling fish. I'm always going to run that off for me personally. Now this pick advance, I want to talk about this one for a second. So if we come back in here to the options and we go into Sonar setup, we had our scroll speed. So this is how fast this is scrolling across. I was talking about matching the speed of the boat. Think about this from a ping. How fast this is pinging. The slower this is, the better picture I'm gonna get, but the slower across it's gonna be. So by the time I see this here, the boat's gonna be further away from it if I'm going real slow. If I'm going real fast, it's almost under the boat, or from that standpoint. This appearance, this pick advance, is keeping the scroll speed the same, the ping speed, but it's basically speeding up how fast it comes across. Let's go extreme here, 8-to-1. This is just ripping. I don't know the perfect application for that quite yet to run 8-to-1. Maybe running across the water and looking for fish. So let's say I'm on pad and I'm running, I see a ball of bait down here. I may want to run that at 8-to-1 to keep up with the boat from going that fast. But I do see an advantage in running this 2-to-1. But again, this isn't the ping speed. This is just how quickly it's really just rolling it across the screen. So then you go back to 1-to-1. This echo stretch right here, think of our arches. So I can make these stretches, I can ball them up or I can stretch them out. Typically you're gonna run these just in a default off standpoint. Overlay data, nothing really has changed on this menu whatsoever. But I just wanted to show you those features that I'm really excited about in the 2D Sonar. All right, guys, we were going over some of the settings of the traditional Sonar, and so I came out here to get on top of some fish. You can see where I've just ran across a big massive ball. I've got some hooks out here, I've got some echoes. So I want to go through some of these new settings to kind of show you how that translates. We're going to idle around, and so we can take a look at these fish and show the different settings and how they translate. So let me get turned around here, and we'll go right back over the top of this big bait ball. The first thing I'm going to do, let's just play with the gain for a second. Let's run this down. Let's just start at 50%, and I'll show you how this changes. You can already see a lot of my clutter is gone, so I've ran that down. Now the problem with running it too far down is I may lose this. Now you can see right here, I've got some fish on the bottom there. You can see I've got some arches there. So these fish are locked on the bottom for sure. So just taking that gain down cleaned up a lot of that garbage, if you will, made it a little better image. But you can see my bottom is not as reflective. Now that would make sense. I know this is a little bit softer bottom. Now if you remember, you saw that big school, and I can now actually get some separation. So I've got a big brush pile there. I've got fish on top of it. So let's come in here and let's change this gain way back up here. You can see how that just wads it out. So really what I want to do is I want to run this a little bit down here as far as my gain goes. Now let's change the beam. Let's change that beam. Now you see how that all of a sudden started disappearing? Remember how I was telling you if I got wider, I would see more, but I would also see less detail. Well, guess what? It just made it, you can see where I'm getting these reflections in here, but this was this. So if I run this all the way up to 16 max, you can see how that comes back. Again, most people are gonna run this on chirp. That's really good technology for the 2D, but that is definitely a feature you can play with. I'm gonna use that broader when I'm in a lot shallower water. If I'm in 10 foot or less, I might use that broader. When I start getting deeper, I'm gonna start getting a little bit more narrow from that standpoint. So then we come in here to this, we talked about scroll speed. Let's slow this scroll speed down a little bit. And let's just take a look and see what this. Now I'm setting still, so I'm gonna move forward and idle, so we're getting, now I'm moving faster than what this is doing, essentially. I've got my gain right here on the screen, so I can play with this from that standpoint. Now let's come in here back into my sonar setup. My scroll speed is here. Let's come in here to my appearance and let's move this pick advance. Let's make this go faster. Turn around and make another pass on these fish. Now you can see the boat's idling along. Sonar setup. I got my appearance, my pick advance. You can see how it's kind of jumpy. It's because it's trying to run this across. The ping speed's the same, but it's making jump. I'm more pixelated. This is the picture advance. So I think the area that you're going to use the most is probably 2:1 or 1:1. And now let's run this echo stretch. Let's just let's exaggerate it here. All right, so we made that pass there. Right here is where we change that echo stretch. So take note of that screen right there, if you can. You can see I've got a lot of just nothing. If I come back here and change that, let's go the other way. Again, extreme. Let's get back on top of those fish. All right, so here's my school of fish right here. And again, I've got my echo stretch, offset one way. We're bouncing from one extreme to the other here to try to show you guys the difference in these, and I'm trying to stay on top of these fish. There we go. So I've made that echo stretch. So here's where it's shorter, and this is where it's longer. So this isn't the same school. However, you can see how it's stretching this picture out. So it's really elongating it. It's really giving it a change. When we ramp that up, it's making them longer. So it's exaggerating it. What I'm probably going to do for myself, just on the echo stretch, is I'm probably going to run this in the +1. If you think about it, if you ran it on the negative side, if a fish shows up, it's going to be a bigger fish from that standpoint. But default is probably fine as well. But again, just want to show you some of these features here. So really, that's one of the big changes. The only other thing I want to talk about is this color gain. You guys that use Livescope are familiar with this. It's just another setting to really be able to dial this in. So if I start running this color gain down, I'm not going to get as good a return, but you can see where the bigger fish start showing up here, and my smaller fish are going to kind of disappear. Now when I say disappear, they're still there, but we know that these are smaller fish and these are bigger fish. Again, here my bottom has changed as well, where if I run this way too hot, I really can't tell the bottom composition the way I like to. So, somewhere in that negative on the color gain on the 2D is probably where I'm going to run this, is what it feels like, just and going out here with initial settings. But again, I can come back in here, my color scheme, go one more back. Sonar setup. Let's go to appearance, my color gain. That's where it's at right there. And guys, that's really some of the big features. One last feature I want to talk about in the 2D, because they've really made some changes in the 2D, is coming in here. So options, sonar setup, come in here to appearance, color gain. Go one menu back, go into my advanced. These have always been here. My installation. We can now change the transmit rate, power, the filter width. Most guys are going to run these on default and never even worry about it. So let's change the default or the transmit rate. Again, let's go way up. This is going to work in conjunction with our ping speed, our scroll speed, our transmit rate. This is how fast this transducer is trying to output. My transmit power is, I wish it could go up, but we can only go down. So we could reduce our transmit power. Now where this is going to come into effect is if we get into, think of some muddier water where there's more debris and we're trying to filter that out, we may not want to have the same transmit power running. You can see this fish I'm coming into. Let's change this real quick. You can see the change right there. This is also going to help me to show some of those brush piles a little bit better, because I'm not going to be, blowing through them, and it's not going to give me as hard a return. All right, so let's talk about the last thing here. Sonar setup, let's go into noise reject. This new one right here, we had talked about the smoothing. So let's go high there. Circle back around and get back on top of these fish. You can already see the bottom changing right here. So I've got my smoothing on high. If I turn it to off, you can see how I tried to kind of filter, think about grinding it down, sanding it down to where it kind of made it blend in a little bit better. It should help you to see some different features on the bottom, stick out a little bit, maybe a little bit better bottom separation with these fish when they lock on the bottom. We don't have as much garbage around the fish itself. We've got a little better definition. That one's going to be one of those things you're just going to have to play with a little bit, because there may be times I want to see the full arch. Other times I really want to kind of filter some of that out. The big one is this color limit. Again, we had talked about this already. This is in the Livescope as well, but we're talking about this in regards to the 2D sonar. So this color limit, obviously you see my palette, I'm running the blue palette. I can see my bottom down here. Well, as I make these changes right here, you can see it's filtering some of that background noise out. I'm getting a much cleaner image right here as I run this up. Now, I'm not telling you to run this up to max by any means, but that's a pretty good picture right there. So it's going to be one of those things that, just like with Livescope, you're going to need to make your adjustments and play with it to see what fits the current conditions that day. Guys, I know this section was a little bit longer, but they really made a lot of changes to the 2D sonar from a flexibility and the different things we can do. Some of the best pictures I've seen on 2D so far, with just some of the configuration we can do. They didn't make as many changes on the clear view and side view, but I wanted to give you a quick breakdown. Stay tuned, because we're going to do much more in-depth videos of really dialing these in. This update's been out for a day, so I'm not going to sit here and claim that I've got every setting perfectly where it needs to be, but this is where we're going to start, and I'm already really excited where it's going to be. So this is the 2D sonar after the Garmin update. Guys, stay tuned as we finish this up. Oh, forgot one thing. So we talked about our menu down here, our waypoints. Now my waypoints are right here. Used to we had to go in and info, user data, waypoints, show all my waypoints. A little bit annoying. Now it's literally right here. So I'm really excited about that. That one slipped my mind early, but here it is. Again, right there on the screen. I'm loving this new layout the more I play with it. All right guys, just real quickly, we've been talking about touchscreens, the GPS map family. I'm gonna go over real quickly the 1222, the 1022 family with the buttons. So right here I'm on my map. If I hit the home, I get this same layout. So instead of being able to touch it like I could on my touchscreen, I'm gonna use my knob. I'm gonna use this arrow right here to cycle through. So if I cycle through my charts, I just use the arrow key right here, and then I use my select or the multifunction knob to select it right there. Just want to give you a quick, walkthrough on the GPS maps with buttons, because we were talking about the touchscreens. So guys, that's it. All right guys, we're at Livescope now. I want to show you the new settings, the new features that they've offered with this update. Guys, we still have this layout down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to options. You can see my gain, my normal depth range. I'm going to come here to Sonar setup. This is where my noise reject was. I run mine on high. Ghost reject. So they added an auto feature. So we'd have to run it low, medium, high. Well, they've added an auto feature that adjusts as that beam comes back on itself. It'll read it and say, okay, I need to adjust this lower or higher. It may even turn it off. So that's a cool feature from that standpoint right there. So let's just run that guy in auto. Then we come in here to appearance, your color schemes, your color gain, this color limit. This is the big one. So right now we're setting on 0. We can run this way up, and this is gonna basically clean up some of that background noise. So let's change my gain. Let's run this gain way hot. Just that way we can see what it looks like here. Let's come back in here to Sonar setup, appearance, and let's change this color limit. Let's start working this up. See, now it's changing it. You see the background noise goes. You see this fish that's out here swimming around. And as I change that background noise, you can see I can actually see some better separation in that fish with this color limit ran up. Now I'm not always going to run it that hot for sure. So let me come back to more reasonable where I'd run my gain. So I was running in that 68, 69%, which most of you guys know by this point, that's pretty good. Let's run this up just a little bit hotter. Let's run it up to 79 and see if I can't get a better screen using this color gain. Excuse me, this new color limit. So let's do that there. Let's run this up just a hair. Let's not get too crazy with it. Let's run it about 25%. That looks pretty good. I've still got some background noise, but I don't want to completely get away from it, because it gets away from, in my opinion, what I'm seeing, it gets away from the essence of Livescope. There's too much stuff that is gone. You can see where it gets rid of those fish there. So I don't think that we're gonna see the higher end of this. I think we're gonna filter in a little bit of a color limit with a little bit of a higher gain, with our color gain still ran up there a little bit high. So I think these three are gonna kind of work in conjunction and get that really good, crisp picture that we have all just been in love with. So continued improvements here. I can't stand it anymore. I'm gonna have to go hunt some of these fish I'm seeing out here. Stay tuned, let's move to the front of the boat, let's do it. I don't know if you guys noticed that really big fish that was swimming around out there. I finally got permission to go try to catch him. So I'm just gonna take an A-rig, we're wintertime, show you some of these new settings with the baits coming through the water, but I'm also gonna try to catch a fish. I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm not going to. Let's go. All right guys, now we're gonna move up to the front of the boat, what you've all been waiting for, no doubt, Livescope. So with this update, there was a Livescope color limit, ghost reject set to auto. We're gonna go play with some of these settings. We're getting oh so close to fishing. Trust me, I want to be fishing right now, but I've gotta do this for you guys first, so let's get to it. All right guys, I'm out here hunting right now. I've got my my settings on. You can see this fish out there at 45 feet. I'll be honest with you, with him that high in the water column, I'm afraid that if I threw this A-rig on top of him, I would probably spook him. But we're gonna try to make a cast. I'm wanting to show you guys what this bait looks like in the water. So this is what it looks like in the water right now. Let my rig come down. And you can see there it is. So right there at 35 feet, that's actually my A-rig coming through the water, okay? So I'm not really even trying to catch a fish with it right now, but you can see it coming back. All right, so let's now make a setting change. We're gonna come in here to our options. Let's run this gain up to about 79%. And let's play with this new color limit, okay? Let's change the color limit. I don't know, let's run up here about 15%. Let's see what that looks like here. Now, right now, I've still got my noise reject set on high. That's an old setting. There's a fish right there, you see him. He looks to be catchable. Let's see if we can get on top of him. You see my A-rig there. Let's bring this up here and let's swing this down on this fish. See if we can't get him to react. He's just drifting off into, he's definitely hungry. Well, you know, that's a pretty good picture right there. Let's try one more time, the same setup. You can see my rig falling. You know, he really didn't react to it as you saw that came down. You know, like I said, with him being that high, I really don't feel like that's an A-rig fish. You know, I think that's a jerkbait fish, but I'm wanting to show you guys what this looks like. So one thing you'll notice on mine is right now I've got my noise reject on high. Let's turn this off. Now you can see how much the screen kind of jumped alive. There's a lot more background noise. That's where I think this color limit, let's run this up a little bit higher. Let's go up to 25%. And now what this is gonna do is, if you noticed, my A-rig was coming through the water, everything's a little bit slower. Because again, when you're filtering it out, there is some processing time. So you can see now my A-rig is coming through the water seeming faster, but it's the same speed as it was before, but the screen itself is not filtering out the, slowing it down. So that is one of the big things I think could be a big player with this new color limit, is adding a little bit to it and taking that noise reject off to get the same picture. Because it looks like my screen is jumping right now, but that's that bait fish down there trying to stay alive. You know, I mean, water temp is 38 degrees. These fish are struggling, you know. And you can see these fish are just having a heyday with them. Now there's a fish down there below. You can see him. Let's get my rig down through these fish and get down below and see if we can't get one of these guys to come up and eat. Just like normal, guys, you still have to kind of follow your bait. You can't just throw it out there and then just let it fall straight on. You're gonna have to continue to adjust as you cross the beams to keep your bait on track. So one more cast right here with this, and then we'll make another adjustment and see how this looks. I'm liking this feature a little bit, but I just don't think this is something that you want to go too crazy. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a second. We'll get extreme with it. There's so many stinking fish there. You see my rig coming through there. It's about 20 feet out, right below the bait. I'm coming through it. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. So let's get really crazy. You saw those fish spook as my rig came through. So let's run this color limit way up. It really does. Let's see, we're set to 91% there. It really changed it. And then one thing I noticed right off the bat is it changes the color palette without changing the color palette. So we're actually set to amber, but as you can tell, that's closer to a copper color in my opinion. So let's see what that does. Throw the rig out here. You can see my rig coming. You see it's right there, it's going really fast. One thing that's doing is it's really squishing that down. You saw how the return changed a lot. You notice how big it was before. That was a really small return. So I definitely think running this color limit way high is not gonna be the right thing. You can kind of see as I'm coming through right there, it's really almost hiding it. I mean, that's an A rig coming through there at 20 feet. You can see how that's not really what we're looking for from a picture standpoint. So guys, this is gonna be something you're gonna have to play with to find that magic spot for sure. But I believe that we're gonna be in this 25% range, run my gain a little bit hotter, and then keep my color gain up as well. Maybe able to run that down a little bit more as well. So guys, this is the features for it. I'm gonna try to actually catch some of these fish now. But I wanted to show you guys some of these new features with this new update. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today. This has been one of the most significant updates Garmin has had for the GPS map family. We know this video is long, but we wanted to hit the highlights. I could be out here all day long, diving deeper into it, and we probably will. That's what you guys want from us. That's what you expect from us. We're gonna continue to put these videos out. Something of note, this is for the GPS map family. This new update is for the Echo Map family as well, but I want to be very clear, it's mainly affecting the Livescope. So Livescope got the color limit, ghost reject, auto feature that is compatible with the Echo Map family for sure. The Echo Map family did not get the operating system user interface overhaul the GPS map family did. I can't stand any longer. I'm seeing these fish. I'm gonna make him put the camera down. I'm gonna go try to catch some fish, see what I can't do there. Guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content like this.